Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Dr. Ritu Sethi, Director of the League of Artisans. Since our founding in 2022, our work has centered on supporting artisans, recognizing their remarkable capacity to shape better futures for people and for planet. As part of this mission, we partnered with the lead researcher, Keele University, other experts, and artisans on a collaborative research initiative. The research having been made possible with funding by the Impact Plus Innovation Network. Its outcome is a publication, a crafted report, and the launch of the first ever Artisan Index. Building on this momentum, the webinar today explores how emerging technologies such as digital product passports, DPP, blockchain, and workplace mapping can be harnessed to empower artisans and their ecosystems to reshape the landscape of craft production. As time is short, I'm just going to rush through a few quick housekeeping notes. As attendees, your audio and video have been disabled, but we do want to hear from you. So please share your questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. If your question is directed to a specific speaker, do indicate their name. Also, in the chat box, you'll find a link to the crafted report and other useful links. Please do feel free to download them. So let's begin. And I'm delighted to introduce our first speaker, Professor Deirdre McKay, Professor of Sustainable Development at Keele University, who will deliver the opening remarks. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ritu. And a warm welcome to everybody. Good morning from Canada, good afternoon from the UK, and good evening from India. And we may have people elsewhere as well. Really, I need to begin by explaining the genesis of this. We started the Crafted project to build a transparency index looking at 50 major brands. We saw that these brands weren't necessarily reporting environmental and social impact data for artisan production. And we felt that if slow, home-based, or self-employed work is going to be excluded from environmental reporting and the plans for a just transition, we'd have a very distorted picture of impact in the fashion and textile sector. And we wouldn't have a just transition if we overlook artisanal contributions. So we looked at 50 brands and we built our transparency index, but we're aware that disclosure is only the first step toward measurable environmental improvement. It's crucial, but it's really a starting point. We also conducted a focus group. We did eco-mapping exercise, and we're almost finished with 10 workshop interviews to learn from artisans' lived experience of transitions towards sustainability in their workshops. And what we found in these interviews with workshops was that the 50 top brands we assessed were not actually leading the way. The workshops were. We learned that there are pioneering manufacturers and workshops experimenting with new digital technologies, blockchain, and they're strategizing to meet the EU's digital product passport requirements. But they're really out there seeking more information on best practice and how best to assess, measure, and disclose their socio-environmental parameters in their production processes. So there's a lot of expertise out there that we need to bring to bear on measuring actual performance or outcomes at the production level. So for today, we invited a whole set of experts, and I'm very grateful for their time, to come along and talk to us as our next step in supporting a sustainable and just transition for artisanal work. So I'm really, really grateful that you've all joined us, and I really hope I can learn from your knowledge in this area so we can assemble something that will be accessible, particularly to people who are managing workshops. And I'm going to turn over to my colleague, Carrie Summers from League of Artisans, to tell us a little bit more about the index and our approach to this area. Thank you.
We now have Carrie
Thank you,
Summers,
Deirdre.
Director of Advocacy and Programs, League of Artisans, who will present a brief overview of statistics in the Crafted Index relating to DPP.
Thank you, Deirdre. Thank you, Ritu. Yes, the Artisans Index, launched with the Crafted report, is so much more than a ranking tool. We intended it to offer a diagnostic framework for how companies can integrate artisan production into their social, environmental, and their cultural strategies. And the index supports the digital product passport and new EU due diligence laws by highlighting the traceability and data gaps that need to be filled to make circular economies inclusive of traditional and informal labour systems. And the report uncovered a really mixed picture of strengths and omissions in how brands disclose information at product level, both through their labelling and on their customer-facing websites. And for this section on product and materials labelling, we didn't award points for information hidden on corporate pages or in sustainability reports, as we did elsewhere in the index. It had to be customer-facing. And this matters because it's the same kind of information the EU's new DPP will soon require fashion and homeware brands to make available on textiles at product level. And traceability is the foundation of credible sustainability, yet very few brands are building it all the way down to artisan level. And this makes artisan production especially vulnerable being overlooked when it comes to reporting requirements. So starting with the strengths, every single brand disclosed some of the materials used in artisanal products. But when it came to the origin of those materials, only 20% of brands disclosed the geographical source, and often of just a few raw materials. So customers can usually see what their product is made from, but rarely where those fibres or hides come from. And for digital product passports, origin is a really critical field. So this is an important gap. John Lewis provided one positive example, highlighting that the wool for its Rokhara rugs is 100% locally sourced from Pakistan, and even how weaving time would change depending on seasonal cycles. And that's the kind of information that connects product back to place and to people. It's exactly the level of detail that the DPP is intended to capture. And on environmental impact ratings, only 10% of brands publish these at product level. And the LVMH Maison are ahead here. They've created systems to measure the impact of individual products, and they now share this data through QR codes covering some 30,000 different products. And this shows that it's possible, but most brands aren't measuring, or at least aren't sharing at this level yet. Animal welfare was another weak spot. Just 12% of brands provide this information on the actual product page. And where it's disclosed, it is quite powerful. We have brands like J. Crew and Ralph Lauren, both providing strong examples for cashmere. But in most examples, this is buried in the policies, in the sustainability reports. It's not customer facing. And if it's not visible at that point of sale, it isn't influencing customer choices or fulfilling the purpose of the digital product passport. We found that care and maintenance was possibly one of the strongest areas. 86% of brands provided information here. And some, like Ermenegilde or Zegna, offer detailed, tailored guidance per product that help to encourage longevity. And this is information that could really easily be pulled into a product passport and would add real value to customers. But at the other end, repair and end of life are so much weaker. 44% of brands detail how their products can be repaired, with Coach standing out, offering at-home repair videos, free in-store leather care, and a trade-in programme that will refurbish and resell used bags. But only 20% of the brands provide guidance on how to recycle or responsibly dispose of artisanal products at the end of their life. And that's a really striking contrast. Care is strong, disposal is weak. And without that final piece, customers are really left in the dark and the circular economy goal is undermined. Packaging was another area where disclosure tends to sit within the corporate report rather than on the product pages. And for digital product passport, the information on recycled content and reusability belongs directly at product level, not hidden in a PDF somewhere. So if we map the crafted index findings against the kind of data a digital product passport will hold, the story is reasonably clear that materials and care are well covered, but provenance, product level impact, animal welfare, and end-of-life guidance are still really big gaps. But this also presents a real opportunity. The information customers want is the same kind of information that the law will soon require. Closing these gaps will help keep brands compliant, but more importantly, it will help customers connect with the artisans and materials behind their products. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. To the next part of our program, we have two speakers. Dr. Jonas Larsson, Senior Lecturer, Faculty of Textiles, Engineering and Business, University of Bora, Sweden, who's going to speak on findings on DPP and blockchain technology for global craft makers exporting to the EU, what they should be thinking about, and how to start preparing to go about it. And we have Robert Meader, Senior Advisor to the European Union Cultural Platform and an expert on DPP and blockchains, who will present his point of view. So over to you, Jonas and Robert.
Thank you, Ritu. I just want to correct.
Thank you, Ritu.
I don't think I'm as much of an expert as our esteemed panelists and certainly Professor Jonas. But thank you, Jonas, for joining us and certainly enlightening us on how the craft sector and the micro SME sector should be preparing themselves for DPP and also in consideration of what blockchain and tech can do for their value chains. And I mean, I'll be taking notes and maybe I'll spare you with some questions at the end, but over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I will spend most of my time speaking about projects that we've done, because if we, let's see here, what do you see now? Pricing agent, something like that. Yeah. So I am involved in many different projects on DPP and on blockchain and whatnot. I think we run 3 projects right now with in total 50 companies, something like that, on this matter. And when it comes to preparing for DPP legislation, then it is if you are a company or an organization that is already measuring your progress with regards to sustainability, you're setting up goals and you show that you make progress, then it will not be any problems with the legislation. It's all very logical. If you read through it, everything makes sense. But if you don't have any processes in place, if you don't have your traceability, if you don't have a systematic approach to traceability, then it's going to be more difficult. To calm you down a little bit, in the beginning, the requirements on the DPP will be lesser. It will be composition, some transparency and traceability information. For example, what country is the product made in the forecast about how detailed the traceability needs to be. We see not before a couple of years they will require the actual factory to be presented. If you then look at the Deforestation Act, which is something else than the Eco Design Directive. It's more detailed on deforestation. Then you have to know the geolocation of where wood comes from. But in very general, if you know what you're doing, if you're setting up goals and you measure your progress and you show results, it will not be any problem with the legislation, so, as far as we have understood it. And I would actually, the best way to deal with this, we found so far, is to reach out to the trade organizations for each country and join them when they have calls and information, because they usually have very specific information of what's going on in each country. So what we're working on is how can we use the digital product passport to create additional value for companies, and that goes from artisanal individuals all the way up to big companies. And I think several of the learnings and the projects that we've done, you can apply the knowledge that we have created to those. And I'm happy. It was fun to hear Deirdre speak about how we can sort of get into very much detail on what's going on in our supply chain and show that to the customer, because that is something that the customer actually likes. And we have developed some technique and concepts for that. I will come back to that later. All right. Do you also see me? Let me see if I can make. All right. So the foundation here is, of course, transparency. I need to tell you that. But I think this is the most important thing that the digital product passport and blockchain can give us is transparency. Because if you live in a glass house like this, for example, you will make sure to keep it tidy, because people who walk by on the outside, they will see inside your house, and if it's not tidy, they will judge you, and they will say, "Oh, Jonas is a messy person. He doesn't have things under control." So, if you have a house like this, a transparent house, you will make sure it's tidy. And I think it's the same applies to the value chain. That if you have a transparent,
I've noticed in the decades that I am introduced.
Sorry?
Oh, Jonas, please carry on. I think that was just a small glitch. Please carry on.
Okay. Yeah. So we do this. We work with transparency and traceability to ensure all stakeholders have access to information about affairs that affects them and to stop corruption. We ensure producer responsibility and accountability. We facilitate consumer-facing communication, and we ensure more resource-efficient production, distribution, use, and end-of-use processes. The thing that very much guides us here, it's not only me who works with this, we're a few of us, it is the circular design principles. And those are to keep products and material in use and at their highest value, design out waste and pollution, and to regenerate natural systems. And we also see something very common in this sort of intersection between design, business model, and material, and it is that companies usually they blow up their very much circular materials, their sustainable material, but then they forget that their business model does not support circularity or transparency, and also their design doesn't support these things. But they are very good around materials, so they sort of think that they can, if we just have this fantastic circular material, nobody will notice our really awful business model. But we see it as there's no trade-off between these, and they have to go together. You have to have better design, better materials, and a better business model, and they need to go together. So the first project that we did where we used blockchain technologies, and this was let's see, this is 5 or 6 years ago, and this was sort of like a pre-project for DPP or for anything, but because everybody saw the DPP coming, and we were guessing a little bit what in here do we need to have to fulfill the DPP, and we thought, well, we might need accounting for climate impact. We might need water impact. We need traceability. There might be some thing about social impact too. So we worked with a company called Papertail that did the transparency stuff. We worked with Gina Tricot, which is a fashion company here in our city, Borås. We worked with local manufacturing and some supporters here. And what was really two things that was really interesting here was that if you see on this little video, eventually you will come to transparency around wages. And we were very transparent about that the worker were paid in time and in full, and this transaction was verified by the worker, the company, and the bank. So what we found here was that three things. We did a mistake with the cotton farmer. We did not realize that it costs money for the cotton farmer to collect data. It costs money for them to be transparent. We did not understand that. So we simply asked them for, hey, can you give us your data for free? And later it became evident that they were quite annoyed that we did not understand that, and they didn't feel that they had enough back from this project. So that was one huge mistake that we made, and it was that we did not realize this. We know that now, but we didn't know back then. And this is true for all the DPP legislation now, is that it costs money to collect and to transfer data. And it is not cheap to do that. You need systems and you need infrastructure, you need integration with different systems. The other thing that was very interesting was that the garments that were sold, the first batch of garments was a capsule collection. It sold at 4 times the price, the normal Gina price, and it sold out within 2 hours. So then the collection was repeated, and that was cheaper, but it was still more expensive than regular Gina Tricot garments, and it was but still it sold out faster and with a higher sell-through. So these garments performed better with Gina Tricot with this type of transparency that you go all the way to the worker. So there's customers they want to see that people in the supply chain have it well. To get to this granularity, the extreme granularity of data, we try to figure out how can we understand what's going on, for example, at the artisanal's house. So this project was conceived within the UN application. So we helped the UN a little bit to form some projects, and here we developed this solution. We call it Black Blocks for Transparency, and we saw it was a portable solution that autonomously collect primary data on sustainability impact caused by manufacturing the textile value chain and make this information available to stakeholders. And our idea here was that this equipment could be used for anybody, from small scale manufacturing up to big factories. The idea was that you could ship these sensors. This one here is a indoor air quality meter that measures the air quality at the workplace. And this one up here is a energy meter. It measures how much energy something is using. You can also use this for water or many other things. So they send it to the production place, and you could plug and play these sensors to existing machinery, and it would send data to a cloud service, for example. So in this case, we had these sensors that did a data collection. The data was transferred through GPS and teleoperator. Then we summarize the data in a vision system that we have. And the application here is, for example, for a digital product passport, EU taxonomy reporting, stakeholder engagement, and things like that. Then we have also want to use the digital product passport not only for being compliant with the law, being compliant with the upcoming legislation, because if you look at those DPP examples that are compliant with what we think will be the law, those examples they will not provide any value for the consumer. I can't see how the consumer will be able to make any better choices with that type of information. I've worked in this field for sort of 20 years, and I could not understand what I would do with that information in these examples. So how we have done it instead is that we have used the DPP as an enabler for other things to create more value for the consumers. And this is what we're focusing on, because there's nothing stopping you in the legislation for putting other things in there. You still have to do all the stuff with the DPP that it is required by legislation. You have to have the transparency. You have to have the how the fiber is, what fiber composition. You have to write how is this planned for recycling and so on. We will know exactly in January next year. But we thought, okay, can we use this infrastructure to connect with the consumers and how can we help them to make better decisions through ways they understand? So we have developed this thing we call pricing agent. So the background to this is that 80% of fashion customers want to make more sustainable choices, but they don't have the time or expertise to navigate carbon dioxide equivalents and sustainability levels. And it's easier to relate to money. And it is still that quality, value for money, design is more important for the general customer than sustainability. We assume that it is more sustainable to buy clothes whose design and quality last a long time. We assume that people are driven more by financial incentives. We assume that better garments have a higher price point. So we've done this. This is with a Swedish denim label, which are recognized for their work in sustainability since more than 20 years. And you can scan this DPP label. And when you get to, when you've scanned it, you can press a button on the DPP that says estimate resale value. And then you will get an estimate on the resale value. So our idea here is that we use the DPP, and we work together with a company called Bencha. They have a huge inventory of prices on second-hand market. So what we do is that we ask for this specific garment, what is this style, this model, this color worth on the second-hand market, and you get the price back. So we hope that by giving consumers information about price on second-hand market, it will give them an economic incentive to buy better garments. The more visionary things, we try to figure out how can we support the regenerative economy with DPP types of technology, blockchain technology. So we have worked on this. We work on this concept of where the purpose is to decentralize economic power to build more resilient local communities through cooperatively owned businesses and other community-owned initiatives. So here I was very amazed by Lingon. I don't know if you still do this, but in the beginning I was very amazed by this, that when you worked with artists, that the artist could sort of what is it called, map or give their art a sort of timestamp, which is saved on the blockchain, and then it's theirs. And if somebody else steals their art, they can come back and see, hey, this is my stuff. I've saved it, and you have to pay me a license. So we thought about the same way, but for textile material, that when somebody, a farmer or anybody, when they have made their batch of raw material and they ship it, they take a photo of a QR code or something like that, and they save it on a secure blockchain database, and this goes through the supply chain and ends up at the customer. And when it does, then there can be some money back to the farmer. And when the garment is then, because it's high quality garment, when it's being sold and so on, money for each resale will go back to the farmer or to the community where the material was grown. So yeah, if you want to connect, there is that QR code. So as I said, not so the legislation is not so complicated. It's but how we can use the DPP, I think, is much more important. That we use it to connect, and how we can use it to give money to communities and strengthen them.
Thank you, Jonas. Robert will now carry the next section of the webinar, as he holds a Q&A with three of our eminent panelists. Selina Perez, Director of the only Fair Trade Certified Handloom Manufacturer, Selin, in Sri Lanka, with whom he will examine the application of blockchain technology in the organization. Robert will follow it with a Q&A on available technological solutions, featuring Leslie Pennington, Chief Executive of VR Legacy, a Web3-powered digital label that lets you scan a QR or RIFC tag to unlock artisan stories, verify authenticity, and support fair pay, bringing handmade origins to life. And Christian Listeris, Chief Executive of Lingon, a platform that enables users to create secure DPPs and certificates of authenticity using Web3 technology to support transparency, traceability, and compliance without requiring crypto expertise. Over to you, Robert.
Thank you, Dr. Ritu, and thank you, Professor Jonas. I do have some questions that I want to ask you, but let's see if I can capture them with the next three panelists. I mean, one thing is, very much, will the EU be ready with all this level of data requirements? I think there was an article, they said there was billions and billions of QR codes and RFID chips that have to be produced, and what's the environmental impact on that? And then, of course, the aspect of impact and SME and microsector. Is this something that the microsector should be thinking about, or will they be exempt until middle to large sectors take it forward? But let's leave it to the end. On that note, I wish to present Selina from Selin, who were also working with blockchain through Papertail. So we get to hear the other side of the equation of how this level of technology was used. So let me just share my screen. Great, can you see it? Second.
Yeah.
But not full screen. It's just
here we go. And now?
No, not yet. Not a full screen yet.
It's fine now, right?
Okay, yeah, I think I can see it now. You can see the main screen and then the speakers to the side, right? Yeah, can you see it?
Yeah, it looks
Brilliant.
great.
Fantastic. So Selena, maybe you can tell us a little bit background about Celine and where and how you got involved in the story of Celine in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Robert, and thanks everyone for having me. Good evening from Sri Lanka. I mean, to keep things short, I think what I can say now is, so I'm if you would like to say, the next generation lead of Celine. It's a 35-year social enterprise. We are based in Sri Lanka's provinces. And the ethos behind Celine is really the creation of consistent and dignified employment for rural women, including artisans who are part of our network. So my role in the company is really to see how we can take our heritage of craft and at the same time protect this heritage while diversifying and staying true to our mission of ensuring that consistent and dignified employment and livelihood opportunities are part of what our women are given within our community. So here, Rob, thank you for that. So we have three kind of pillars that we work with. So Celine as a company provides the access to work. So within our organization, we have our legacy craft brand, which is Celine. It's Fab India kind of shops in Sri Lanka, in parts of, in largely the tourist hub. There we house largely and more, actually that's the only location that we house the craft items. And it's not just refined to handloom, which is part of our community, but we also look at different crafts from, I mean, the various crafts of Sri Lanka. We give the opportunity for artisans to really showcase their talent, and we also work with artisans to develop product and take it to market. So the next vertical that we deal with is the toys, and then we do menstrual products as well. So it's a kind of a long ecosystem, but all with the kind of passion and the vision to keep women at work in a dignified manner. So Celine as an organization really has those flexible working models, the working from home, and all the kind of characteristics of a responsible business that can give these women consistent and dignified work. And then just maybe to quickly, just before coming into COVID, we also have a foundation which gives the skills to empower, which is where we think that it's more than economy. It's also about the soft skills that keep women, give women the choice to be empowered, if you were to say so. So come COVID, and to go rapidly into where we encountered blockchain in our journey, is that we realized that, I mean, things just radically changed overnight. We lost about 70% of our retail market. Our export market stalled, and now things haven't gotten better, right? In Sri Lanka, we've had a financial crisis, and now, the global economy is uncertain, to say it in a nice way. So with all of that, during COVID, and maybe Rob, we can go to the next slide on this. I've already spoken about the changing landscape. That was the macroeconomic, political, social situation that we continue to grapple with. And what did we do as a company, as a women-centric, future-focused company? And that's really where I come in. Is we looked at two innovations. The first was a menstrual pad that I've spoken about, which is kind of taking its own journey in our ecosystem. And where we encountered blockchain as a technology was really in the Celine Textiles project, which together with Rob, we really looked at how we can create a space for Sri Lanka's handloom in the global economy. Especially considering that we have India, Bangladesh, Philippines, and all the kind of textile-oriented, craft-oriented, larger volume based countries in our region. So here we kind of came down to the point that let us look at Sri Lanka's natural fibers, how we integrate them into the handloom, which was part of the product development efforts. And then we looked at blockchain as a technology to really further authenticate or further create a way that we can build on our already existing fair trade certifications and value system. So we thought, if we can take what we do and integrate the technology to create this authenticity that our consumers, who we assumed, all the reports said that, consumers want this level of authenticity, they want the transparency, they want to go beyond storytelling, they want to see data. So we thought, let's do this. So that's what we did with the Celine Textiles project. And I think, as Rob has mentioned here, we created this wonderful banana bag. Yeah.
And I'll just say, I think the point here was in this journey, because of the costs at the time, and it feels like yesterday, but it was about 3-4 years ago, and in tech years, that's almost a generation away, that in order to justify the tech and the added cost, we had to ensure that the product moved upstream, which is still, I think, going to be the challenge, because blockchaining, a low value product won't make sense because of the added cost. So this was really one of our biggest experiences and insights, and a little bit about the blockchain, which is similar to it's actually the same supplier that Jonas mentioned, Papertail. We were able to produce this bag with a Danish designer, where we provided all the value chain steps, along with measures and matrix on carbon usage, water usage. We were certainly super excited about this level of data, that a customer could scan the final product and have that. And I think, Selena, this similar to what Jonas said, I think this was a very important aspect for you and the craft sector, right?
And in fact, it was here that everyone got excited, I felt, because when you talk about wage transparency, especially in the craft sector, which is informal, and if we were to, as Celine claimed, that it was not just about fair wages or living wages, it was about consistency of fair or living wages. So this is where, having Jayavardhana here really be able to showcase that she receives a pay every month, really, I think radicalizes how the craft sector can and should function. And here I see the true value for the technology, where it really impacts artisans on the ground. I'm not discounting the fact that the other claims are not impacting artisans on the ground, but finally we have to understand it's about economy, it's about prosperity. We can't have artisans or their children remain in the same economic conditions that they're in, because it's not right. And it also means that the craft industry will never grow, because who wants to stay in the same place, right? So this is where I felt that the technology and what we did had the most impact in this kind of bringing the evidence and the data and the authenticity beyond storytelling.
And it was here, I think, Selena, we discovered those twofold, those aspect of the initially the team were afraid to have their pictures shown, but when we explained to them that the value of this is that the end consumer could actually see who made their product and that they got paid fairly, all of a sudden there was a switch in their attitudes. They actually got excited and they felt very proud and dignified that all of a sudden we could see, excuse the pun, Carrie, who made your product, because she made your product. And then, they were very excited about that. But then the flip coin to that was that there were other partners in the value chain, or let's say designers in Europe, who didn't want to have their data shown because of European data protection. So this is where we walked away and said, well, hang on, we've got to make sure that whatever we're asking for from our workers, we also ask from our European partners up the value chain, if you remember, right, Selena?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, one of the questions we got when we were at Dutch Design Week, as one of, an industry trend around design and textile, was, okay, you're showing consistency, but where are the figures here? How much are these people getting paid? And then very frankly, you tell me what your margins are. Tell me how much it costs to have the design input. If you're talking about equity, it has to apply to the entire value chain and not just to us in the global south of the world. And that's really, where you put your foot down and you say, if you want the technology to radicalize the way that we operate, then everyone needs to be transparent. And it's not just consistently us in the global south of the world.
And I mean, I've just captured some of those points. I think we've covered them there. This aspect about the cost right now, that the blockchain is a cost on it. Like Jonas said, this was a cost that we didn't assume or we could never have a thought about. Hence, it forced us to innovate. There was also another aspect where when we did show some clients the potential of the textiles, they were very happy to have the product, but then brands that weren't ready in Europe didn't want to have that level of transparency on one product and not on the rest of their assortment. Do you remember, Selena, that I think in the end they chose to have your textiles without having the data? So it was kind of felt a little defeated, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I suppose that comes with the whole first mover or the first band of bandits that do new things. But yes, that was a concern because, if you're transparent in one product line, then you're required, right? Because finally you have a consumer out there who's expecting perfection in terms of sustainability and, ethical standards. And it doesn't exist. You can't have perfection. And that's also where I find the technology can help, because it's a journey and you see this journey over time. And then the philosophy is improvement and not a utopian idea of everything's amazing and everyone's doing amazing. It doesn't work, right? So I think this is where the technology has to be used, not as a certification, not as compliance, but really to change the discourse from consumer to supplier to buyer to how do you create that equity with the transparency. And that I find is the true power behind using technology in this way.
And that's really leads well into that last point there. And that's more of the internal management shift that, Selena, your next generation. So it's easy for you to embrace this level of technology. But when you're dealing with patriarchal family craft communities, trying to introduce technology without their full understanding and buy-in was also an unseen challenge, because you can have all the young, craft generation involved, but if the old masters and the old team don't know about it, then it defeats the purpose, right?
Correct, absolutely. And I mean, where we have come to now, 3.5, 4 years later, maybe even more, is that finally I'm running a company that needs to pay bills. So if it is a as long as it's a pilot and it is subsidized to some nature, then there's a level of resources and time that can be invested in creating this level of discourse, which is necessary. But in a global crisis, especially in Sri Lanka with our national financial crisis, the decisions had to be made. We had to continue to give work. We had to prioritize business as usual. And that's sad, but we don't think all this work is lost at all. I think there'll be a time when this becomes relevant. But if you take the learning out of that to apply into the rest of the sector, it is that unless economy, transparency can all work together, unless there's appreciation for high value craft, how much can technology and transparency really make that difference in the lives and the livelihoods of artisans is the fundamental question.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Selena. I think I will stop sharing now, and I'll jump on to my next two presenters. Leslie Pennington, CEO of We Are Legacy. Thank you so much for joining us, and you've heard the fantastic insights from Jonas, from the theoretical research base, and then now from Selena, from the practical application of a first mover blockchain, and super excited to hear about We Are Legacy and We Are Legacy's perspective.
Thank you very much, Rob. It's been really interesting to sit and listen to everyone's unique perspective about technology and blockchain in the textile fashion industry. And I feel like, you know, if we can all live together and pool these resources, we've come a long way on this path. But I would like to follow a little bit on with the conversation that you had with Selena and Celine, and really take this from the artisan perspective and the comment that if we're going to make change, we need to make this equitable for the people who are currently at the bottom of the supply chain, but I think we would argue have the greatest value to the supply chain. I'm going to share We Are Legacy with you today. And some of these, I mean, I think I'm speaking to the choir here. We know that if customers really knew everything about a product, if they knew who made it, how it was made, its impact on people and planet, we believe that they would make another choice about the product that they purchase. But it's not easy for them today. And we know that there are amazing artisans all around the world that create these beautiful, unique, handmade, mindful products. And we know that customers today are looking for those products that carry these deeper values and that support their desires to be more conscious and to be more aware of the purchase choices that they make. And we all know that it's extremely difficult to find these products and to be able to understand what is behind, what are the values behind that product. And why is that? Well, I mean, we've talked a lot about supply chains today, but the fact is that existing supply chains are built to support mass market products. They are built to move lots of products around the world in multiple quantities. And there are many layers in the supply chain. And the people that are at the bottom of the supply chain really don't get any credit or recognition, and they get the least amount of value from that supply chain. So the result is that there is no market access or fair pay for artisans. And of course, that there's a lack of these unique mindful products for consumers who might value this. So We Are Legacy is focused on building a value chain that works for the handmade market. We are focused on working with the artisans, the artisan studios, the change makers, working with them in a collaborative way to make sure that they are seen, valued, and get equity from the market. So we are building a collaborative platform using smart digital tags to connect this intrinsic value of handcrafted products with their origin, their story, and the creator. And we're very much focused on storytelling and community because we really believe that we need to do this in concert and together with the artisans to share their stories. We believe very much in story making, but we also know that there need to be facts and statistics and provenance and authenticity that backs this up. We can provide them an opportunity. Our goal is to provide them business opportunities to sell their physical goods, but also to license their digital assets. That's one of the huge benefits, as everyone knows, of blockchain technology is to be able to protect their digital assets, but also to give them opportunities to be able to create new revenue streams by licensing their digital assets. So We Are Legacy provides a simple, intuitive front-end UI for the artisans. We know that their business is to create beautiful products, not to actually develop technology. So we're creating a front end for them to make it very simple for them to share their provenance and their stories, connected to a blockchain backend that provides the transparency and the authenticity. Branded QR codes, RFID tags, which will provide a point of engagement and a connection to the customer that stays with the product forever. And also a front-end interface for the customers. And we're building community around it. We think that community is extremely important as a very powerful way to connect artisans and customers, but also as we move forward into an AI world, community becomes probably a primary connection place between artisans and customers. So this is very simple, the customer experience. We've seen it in multiple iterations today. I think that we all have lots of ideas about how to present this to customers. We also are focused very much on the user experience from the artisan perspective. How do we make it simple for the artisans to be able to participate and be able to share the product experience, the stories, the heritage, the legacy of their products to to customers, not computers. So just very simply, the benefits that we see for the artisans are that we will provide this platform to the artisans for free, so that they can begin to be a part of this, begin to be a part of this community. And we are creating this front end for them to upload their product content. We are going to work very much as a front-facing brand to support market access for them and the connections that they need to the customers. We are creating a community, both for artisans and for customers. And it's about business. It's about creating value and equity in the value chain for the artisans so that it's a business benefit for them to participate. And, I think as handmade products have this unique opportunity right now, it's very, very difficult for mass market brands to be able to share and expose their supply chains, but where at the same time, you have these beautiful, beautiful value chains that already exist in the handmade sector. And I think we've got an amazing opportunity to actually be able to use technology to lift that. So our goal is to build a blueprint for post-mass market commerce, connecting artisans and really representing the artisan stake in building this new post-mass market commerce opportunity, protecting their cultural heritages, and unlocking new income streams for them, and creating equity in the value chain, creating a new model of value creation and value distribution. And that's it from me. I hope.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Leslie. I think for time, I think we'll just jump straight on to Christian to introduce Lingon. And once again, these are tech solutions for the audience members to consider, because we are at an early stage and God knows where and what solution will be out there. But Christian, please, over to you.
Yeah, so to begin with, Leslie, I just love what you are doing. It's a fantastic project. And I'm so happy to be here. So thank you for having me, and it's so great to meet you all and to talk about the real drivers and the real purpose of working with these kind of tools. It's easy to kind of, get stuck in regulations and technology and forget about the real, purpose, both for artisans, designers, producers, and users, and all the different actors in the value chain. So it's both about value for society and for finding new ways of creating a value in a circular economy, which is not the easiest task. I represent the company Lingon, which I founded in 2018. So we've been on the market for quite some time already. And as Jonas mentioned before, at the beginning we were focusing on art, and we found that blockchain is a great infrastructure for proof of authenticity and for traceability back to the original and so on. So it's proof of ownership and other aspects that the technology provides. And we wanted to make this accessible to a wide community of artists and their users without going into technology or any other related things like crypto. But since then, we've pivoted into digital product passports, and now we're dealing with the industry and all the complexities in the industry, in the producing industry, and we're especially focusing on furniture and lighting industries in Europe and the global supply chains that are related to that and value chains. And why furniture? Well, I mean, just like Leslie mentioned, it's something special in a well-crafted piece, whether that is artisan work with textiles or a chair. Furniture has such a present part of our lives. We all have relations with certain pieces of furniture, and furniture sometimes outlive their owners. Furniture definitely has stories to tell, but yet it is silent. We don't get, it's a very one-sided communication today. We're in a store, we're buying something, maybe we're buying it in the secondhand market, and we get some initial information, but we don't know much about the origin, how it was made, and so on. And later, through the product life, we don't get the information, how it's been used, where it's been used, if it's been refurbished, what it's gone through, and so on. By implementing the technology of digital product passports, we actually transform each item into a storyteller, so that there can be a mutual and a real conversation. Because for us, a chair is not just a piece of furniture; it's a story of materials, of hands, and choices, and an ambition of the designer and or the artisan, the developer, and so we want to provide means for this story to really come out, because we believe that this will help users to take the right decisions, to appreciate quality before price, and rather look at the lifetime value of things and start thinking about what quality really means. Now, when we're looking into the producing industry, we have what we call a silent industry dilemma. So most producing industries, producing companies today, they are stuck in a produce, sell, silence model. They produce products, they sell them through resellers, and then they don't know where they end up. There is no feedback loop from the market. And upstream, they don't have a very good understanding of the origin of the products, they know their first tier or the second tier of suppliers, but frequently there is no knowledge, or very low knowledge about raw materials and the different choices that they could potentially make if they would have better access and control. So and we in the EU alone, there are like 240,000 companies in this sector who lack this very essential tools. get to a point where they can be more efficient, make a better business, contribute to a more sustainable world, and but also to be compliant with the new EU regulations. When it comes to collecting data, producers, they have data today, but it's scattered. It sits on different places, and the data collection is most of the time made in a manual way. So even in the most efficient production sites where they have robotics and automation processes, when you ask them, how do you collect your data? Well, we're using Excel. That's not what you would expect normally. So even if automation is a keyword in big companies, and if you're using modern technologies, it's not given that you also are an expert in data automation, and so there's a big gap. We've seen other industries being disrupted, the media industry and so on. And this is happening now in many producing industries as well. In the future, it's all about the data and the insights you have from your customers, but also the knowledge you have about your suppliers. And of course, the manual collection of data that happens today, that is an efficiency loss that is costly. And there are many negative aspects with that. So we have heard a lot about DPP today, and I mean, DPP is a word that is used in many different contexts. I think Jonas shed a light on that a little bit. Digital product passport is actually something that is a standardized and regulated set of data in the EU. And there is not everything is ready yet. The standards are still being worked on. The regulations are not 100% clear yet. But when it's all ready, it will be very standardized and boxed in what a digital product passport is and what it isn't in the EU. And it will be forced, it will be regulated by law from 2027 and onwards, that producing companies will have to comply with this. But we like to talk about a product certificate instead, which could include a digital product passport, but also all the other things that we were talking about before, like the real business value for companies and their users. And enable different circular models and so on. I'm not going into all the details here, but if you look into what a digital product passport is, I mean, it's a digital representation of a physical object, and it can be for a unique product, but it can also be for its parts. And in this digital product passport, there will be requirements on which information should be there, like the origin, which materials that have been used, how the product should be cared for, how it can be recycled, and many other things. And it's the requirement that there needs to be a data carrier, like a QR code or NFC tag or so, to connect the physical object with a digital certificate. And this passport is meant to last, even if the company goes out of business. And it's also meant to be to be dynamic in the future, to comply with evolving regulations. And it's also meant to follow through the value chain. So when a product is out on the market, when it's in a circular market, when it's being refurbished and recycled and so on, these are events that also need to be tracked and go into the product passport eventually. And like I mentioned before, so at Lingon, we are trying to take this, from the simple product passport and the compliance aspects to a real product certificate that can add value for real, like analytics insights for a producer, but also convey the story that a designer or an artisan or a brand wants to bring to the market, and enable provide tools for customer engagement, so relations can happen. And that's a different kind of community that we're talking about here, but it's like when brands can interact with their users on a very contextual level, when they know exactly which product a user loves and uses, and they can get feedback about how it's being used. They can improve their products. They can make them more qualitative and respond to needs in a much better way. So we're basically giving the products a voice, and we're focusing very much on helping small and mid-sized companies, and also the big ones, of course, to be compliant, because right now there is like I mentioned before, a very analog situation. Data is scattered and so on, and we're providing means to make that process much easier for the companies. And we're also supporting in the customer engagement and unlocking new revenues. So yeah, for end users, I think I mentioned most of these things already, but what I didn't mention so much is of the proof of authenticity. That's still something that we provide in our platform, which is important in these times of counterfeit and piracy and so on, which is also very costly and problematic. I spoke to a furniture manufacturer in Sweden recently, and they put a lot of effort in design and in quality and in product development, and sometimes they work with interior designers to create a project, and then when the end buyer wants to purchase, they are actually asking some other manufacturer to produce exactly that kind of configuration. And this is really troublesome, of course. So with the proof of authenticity, registered on a blockchain that is immutable and so on, it's something that increases value and the premium of the product. For the manufacturers, obviously, having insights about their supply chain on a more granular level can help them to source better, to plan better in materials, but it can also help manufacturers to actually make sustainable choices. So is there a green steel option? Can I ask my sub-suppliers, the tier 7 sub-supplier, to provide a different kind of wood from a different region? When I know that what the supply chain really looks like in detail, and I have these tools, then you can make better choices. I think I mentioned most of the other things already. So let's jump into this. If you want, you can scan this QR code to get an idea how a very typical digital passport can look like. And what you will see there is a list with different sections, and all these sections are configurable. So it's up to the manufacturers what they want to do with all these sections and how they want to present their story. They can use different symbols to make it easy for users to quickly get an understanding of the climate footprint or other important facts about a product. They can add a movie, photos, and many different media formats, and of course use different links to direct to other places. We also see, of course, the possibility to have direct AI chatbots that can or you can ask a question, get all the information in a spoken way, or instructions, care instructions, and other things easily accessible, and even one click buy for accessories or spare parts that are sometimes breaking and so on. I think I will stop there. We're working with some major furniture producers in Sweden. Some of them are very international as well, but we're actually involving with furniture clusters in 13 European countries, and we are trying hard to understand on all levels what the challenges in the industry are. We can come with our spaceship, but if we can't, dock onto the ground on the factory, then it's a problem. So what we usually see is that the biggest concern is how do I print a QR code and how do I put it on and where do I put it on my product? It already starts there. So it's a big undertaking, of course, for the companies, but we're deep in these discussions, and we're piloting with some, and we have some buying customers. And on our advisory board, we have Anna Rosenqvist. Very happy for that. She has a background with 24 years at IKEA, and she's leading the Swedish furniture cluster. And so we're kind of deeply involved in the sector. And we're also working with global partnerships. We're a small tech startup, so we believe in collaboration. It's a big undertaking for the industry, and we're having technology partners, but we're also very deeply active in standardization, as we're trying to learn from the standardization, but also to influence the standardization. And we're working with system integrators. We have a strategic partnership with Sigma Technology, who is a European system integrator, and so on. And we're also having collaborations with the university, the Linnaeus University in this case, because research is extremely important here, of course. Yeah, so this is my small introduction to Lingon. Hope it helped.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you, Christian. Now I'll give you over to Dr. Ritu.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Selina, Leslie, Christian, and Robert. We are really running out of time, and it is very important that we hear our last speaker, who's going to be talking about something completely different. So our final speaker for the day is Heinz Werner Engel, who is Senior Advisor and Auditor in Ethical, Social, and Environmental Standards at EU. Heinz will be speaking on AI-based software solutions to support eco-mapping implementation in small companies to help efficiently implement sustainability standards and improve their processes. Over to you, Heinz.
Thank you very much. I hope I can make this work. Do you see me?
Not yet. Yeah, but not yet a full screen.
I'm working on it. I think I have to. It's a shame. I have a different. Okay, here we are. Are we here?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. I mean, this is a fascinating discussion we have here, and I'm amazed and I'm reconforted to see what are the evolution happening, but it is happening in the rich Protestant northern countries, and most of SMEs cannot afford this. So I think how can I get this spot away in the middle? Anyhow, are you with me? My system is blocked. Anyhow,
Can you just click on continue to share?
Is it okay? I'm
Perfect.
sorry. I'm a dinosaur. Anyhow, I mean, it's the textile sector is a complicated one, we know, and it's one of the semantics we have in front of us, I mean, we know this in 30 years that the EU and a number of other players are looking into getting data and information and transparency, and the pressure on SMEs was growing, but it's not only on EU policies. I mean, when you see the digital passport comes traditionally out of the eco-design but directive, but what I see today, Europe has initiatives on pulling back innovative directives for the time being, the due diligence, the taxonomy, all these things are ruled back, and so we are not progressing, we are regressing. So this is not a good news, and I don't know if the digital passport will have another go with the EU services. On the other side, I would like to say as well that consumers, I mean, since a number of years, don't trust anymore the processes out there, and so we had a number of not mandatory but voluntary tools, and as you see, there is a background noise of a lot of voluntary, not mandatory labeling systems which are attached to a product and tell a partial story. And I think 15 at least of them are relevant for the sector in which we are. So the pressure on the sector comes not only from policy, mandatory, but as well from voluntary initiatives. And then there are other things which are driving the sector without policy. I mean, it's the technology which has its internal logic, digitalization and robotization. And then, of course, we talk about blockchain. I can remember 6 years ago where among the consumers here in Europe, there was outcry, there's too much greenwashing. The multinationals responded, look, there's a new technology and blockchain will help us to restore social trust. I mean, I have not seen this happening. And the other concern is that there is still costs and an environmental cost to this blockchain technology. But now what we have coming are other leapfrogging concept. I mean, like artificial intelligence, which will reshape the market as well. And from an environmental perspective, I see, I mean, you see climate change happening and you see resource shortages, and with the current consumer trends we have in front of us, I think we are not sure that we have enough cotton to meet the consumer demands in the next. So I'm skeptical about a number of things. I have worked with very easygoing tools we had to develop 30 years ago to engage small businesses informal into learning about the environment, be aware about the environment, map out situations on the shop floor. So it was developed for informal business. It was mostly financed by development agency and so on. But we used it here in the beginning, here in Brussels, to engage small workshops in environmental endeavor and try to involve the staff so that we can move forward and lower the impact, environmental impact, and get some data out of the business. Having said so, what we are just right now is we learned that 70% even of data acquisition in the most modern economies like up in the Northern Europe still do it manually. We said why we cannot make a jump and look into how can we make this interesting small tool, put it into a mobile application and make a small appraisal in small workshop based on a very visual method. And so we have for the time being, a starter with Bavarian universities and an EU funding to look into how can we make this basic eco-mapping and enhance it, if possible, with the artificial intelligence. So I just show you what it is. It's a cool environmental and social risk finder. It's basically, you will see, it's short, it's straightforward. It doesn't need higher education and a degree. You can do it with the people in your stuff. So we have followed évidemment in Germany. We have conceived this one for a German young adult who lives and works in a company and has to take care of the sustainability agenda. So this is the model developed for a certain person with a certain education, a certain awareness, and so on. So we have to keep this in mind. And so here, this is a tool now where the German small supply chains, you can in there and can engage them and collect environmental data and get a journey started in the context of environmental certification or improvement. So what you see here is this is you start. I mean, you get some little information from the company on the cell phone. The basic one, geolocation is important. Then you build a team for people who go around with this application in the company, and you go around and you use maps. And as you see here, the eco maps, you can have site maps, you have storage, how you have first floor, you have small workshops. You can have it. The maps, as you will see here, can be of multiple big company compounds, but you can use it as well in total different settings. So we do eco mapping in big organizations, but we do it as if here what you see is we mapped out an entire value with coffee producers in 14 villages. So you can, where we use this eco mapping with the populations. So here this is in the northern Thailand, in the mountains. There was a small artisan workshop. So you can just, as you see, prepare your map and you put on your observations together where there are areas of risk or improvement on this paper. So you have here is a Latin American sewing workshop. So I think we start with pictures and maps because we know pollutions and stuff. It's not happening in bookkeeping systems, but pollutions are happening behind machines and workplaces. But I think this is what we try now to involve into a mobile application. And you see here, when you have developed your maps, you have your team, and then you have to say, okay, what are the environmental aspects in this organization or on the shop floor? So here we say we look into water usage and wastewater. This would be our topic. And so you have a little, something went wrong here. You have a little, sorry, dot, we say we are in water, and then we go, and the next screen would be where do we go and look where this is relevant. So we can look into water consumptions and kitchen or cleaning facilities. So we have our agenda where to go and where to look. And then we go, of course, and take pictures or videos, and there should be the people who do this just type in observations, or they just speak and dictate it, but it is limited to very, very short text. In the same time, of course, you describe what you see, what is the issue, what is the problem. You make some kind of ranking with emoticons. It's very important. It's significant. You use emoticons. I mean, and then we describe somehow on one line what is the environmental hot issue here, and then we rank it with like a traffic light systems. So I think all these small tools which are around there. And then you see here, this is another development. It's not yet operating. We are in the early stages. We look into as well how to assess, how to come from what we see. There are a number of issues on water. Then we look into what can we do, what actions, what is the potential of economy, environment, financial, what is the the precision, are they guessing, or is this an invoice or measuring? We look into the precision of data. What is the priority of this, if to move on this issue, very high or moderate? What is the relevance or the environmental impact, how significant it is? So it's very, very easy. And then we have water and wastewater. Then we get at the end the collection of pictures and what are the issues behind. And when you see green dot, that means here we have finished our analysis. Now we have 7 or 8 lines of aspects, so you can get in the morning exercise easily 45 to 50 hotspots where you can work on. So what is the future? I think we look into artificial intelligence, what they can do. I mean, we dream about identification, let's say, of chemicals or workplace situations, automatic translations and summary of the little reports, export data, link it to other systems like we have seen, being as well in compliance with the export in the future, financial standards on reporting and so on. So this is what we try to achieve. Eco mapping was experimented with 30 years, always with help of governments, agencies, development. So we do not want to reinvent the wheel. We are just developing it for a German market. So I think, but the same logic can be developed, and we have tried to experiment in the coffee supply chain in Laos. So it works fine. We have used it in several fair trade organizations as well. So we are on the road, we are not yet there. So if you are interested in this, perhaps we will look forward and develop something specifically for the artisan level in developing countries. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Heinz. You know, I have done Heinz's training, and let me tell you, I would really push it to all the small, medium enterprises across. It's really marvelous, and it works very well for post-disaster and pre-disaster need assessment also. So thank you, Heinz. I do hope that in our audience and eventually on YouTube, where we are going to post the webinar, we will have people who work with brands or for brands or are researchers and activists. For these are far-reaching ideas that we need to wrap our heads around and really push into practice. But for me, the importance of this webinar lies in how these tools have the potential to redefine standards of transparency, accountability, and equity within the craft ecosystem. Yet we need to keep in mind at all times values, ethics, and rights of craftspeople. And that is really the better world we all hope to work for. Unfortunately, we cannot open the floor to questions. This has been such an amazing webinar. We have gone over 100 minutes. So I want to say my huge thank yous to all of you. Riveting conversations, and the audience that has stayed with us, to all of you panelists for sharing your knowledge and adding to our learning. And a big thank you to my colleagues for all their help, my co-directors, and the Artisan Advisory for their support. Thank you all. And good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Pleasure to meet you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure to meet you too.
Bye.
Bye.